Supreme Court will hear Donald Trump's claims of absolute presidential immunity. The court's going to hear the case with oral arguments on April 22nd. Here's the former president explaining his view.
Presidential immunity is imperative. It's going to be very, very important. As a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. I was entitled as president of the United States and commander-in-chief to immunity.
All right, special counsel in the case, Jack Smith, asked the Supreme Court to take up the case as quickly as possible. He probably did not have the end of April in mind. The case centers around President Trump's behavior on or around January 6th. It's widely seen as the most serious federal case, and it will be in federal court in Washington, D.C. So if there were to be a trial, that's still a big if, fair to say Washington, D.C. will have the least Trump-friendly federal jury pool, certainly less friendly than Florida. Tom Dupree has argued many cases before the court, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General under George W. Bush, the man we turn to in hours like this. Your phone blew up at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, my friend. What is the court trying to do here with this timeline?
Right. Well, they understand they need to decide this expeditiously, and it is actually on a lightning fast schedule by Supreme Court standards. They said today that they're going to accept the case for review. They're going to hear argument at the end of April, which means that we can anticipate a decision probably sometime in May, but possibly not until June. But under any scenario, Leland, we're looking at a very significant delay in the trial court by a number of months, potentially pushing this whole trial back past the election.
Okay, so you said potentially, and there's two things to break down here. One is that the Supreme Court could have said, hey, we're going to hear this under our normal schedule, and that would have pushed the trial for sure off until after the election. Instead, they had this expedited thing that if they rule against Trump and say, no, you got to stand trial, that would put the trial right up next to the election. You're talking, what, July, August at the earliest for a trial date? Now, all of a sudden, you're putting a presidential candidate of one of the two major parties after the convention on trial. How does that work? How does the Justice Department make that decision? How does the trial court make a decision of whether they're willing to, and I hate to use this word, but interfere in an election like that?
Exactly. And look, it is going to put the Justice Department in a very, very difficult situation. Because as you know, the Justice Department has a longstanding policy that basically when an election approaches, they go dark. They will not indict. They will not make significant prosecutorial decisions in a case when it could have the effect of affecting the outcome of the election. So Merrick Garland is going to have to make a very hard decision when this case, assuming that the justices don't grant Trump immunity, but if they say we're going to go back to the trial court, there will be a trial, Merrick Garland is going to have to make the decision about whether he can, in good conscience, prosecute Trump in, say, July, August, September, when we're just months away from the presidential election.
All right, so this is Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, obviously has some strong opinion, shall we say, on this issue. Take a listen.
You know, banana republics do this to each other.
Right,
when one party gets in power, they try to lock up and put in jail their opponent.
Banana republics also give complete immunity to their leaders. Do you think that the president of the United States, whoever he or she is, should have complete immunity?
I think that President Trump's conduct as president was not criminal.
All right, so fair to say he dodged on that. Can the Supreme Court say, no, you don't have absolute immunity as president? You can't, to use the idea that was brought up by the appeals court, you can't send SEAL Team 6 to go kill your political rivals, but he does have immunity over what he is being charged with, or the laws that Jack Smith has he's turned into a pretzel to indict Donald Trump don't apply here.
Yeah, and look, former President Trump is making a very, very aggressive assertion of immunity here. The Supreme Court, no court has ever endorsed the broad scope of immunity that Trump is arguing for. They have recognized much more limited presidential immunity. We saw that in the context of civil cases.
Is there a danger for Donald Trump's lawyers in overreaching, right, in saying, I am immune from everything, which forces the Supreme Court and any reasonable person to say, no, you're not immune from everything. We're a nation of laws, not of men.
Absolutely, there's a danger. I mean, if you're asking the Supreme Court to accept that SEAL Team 6 hypothetical, you're probably not going to win on that, right? And so if you're in the Trump defense camp, I think one thing you have to be thinking is, can we give the Supreme Court a way to rule narrowly, rule in Trump's favor, give him immunity in this case from these charges, but not go so far as to say presidents are immune from anything, including trying to kill their political opponents?
Yeah, I keep thinking about how the justices are trying to play this to give themselves, you said the words, an off-ramp, right? They don't want to decide the election, how they do that. All right, April 22nd, this is your booking call. You are now booked for April 22nd, and probably the 21st as well. Put it on your calendar. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.